My name's Luke, I'm 33, and I never thought flying home for my dad's 60th would be the moment I realized just how disposable I'd become to my own family. I know that sounds dramatic, but give me a minute, because it didn't start with the slideshow. It didn't even start with the flight. It started way earlier, maybe years back. But this trip was the first time I saw it all laid bare. I live in Portland now, across the country from where I grew up in Virginia. Moved out here almost 10 years ago after college. Needed some space, you know? My family's always been tight-knit, but also selective. And by that, I mean they're tight-knit with each other. My sister, Megan, the golden child. My brother, Aaron, the prodigal son. And then me, Luke, the independent one. The flake. The too busy for family. That's the label they stuck on me years ago, and no matter what I do, it clings. Thing is, I've always made the effort. Sent birthday gifts. Called on holidays. Texted my niece and nephew congratulations when they made honor roll or won some school award. But visits? Those became rare. Not because I didn't want to come, but because every visit left me feeling smaller. Like I had to prove something just to be taken seriously. Like I had to explain why being single at 33 with a job in tech and no kids wasn't some kind of personal failure. I started choosing peace over presence. I figured, less contact, less judgment. But then a month ago, Aaron called me out of the blue. That was weird in itself. He rarely calls unless something's wrong. Hey, he said casually. Dad's turning 60 next month. Megan's planning something big. You coming? I hesitated. I hadn't been home in almost 3 years. Not since Mom's surprise birthday party, where I spent most of the evening being introduced as Luke, the one from Seattle. Oh wait, Portland now, right? And being asked if I was still doing that computer thing. Of course, I told him anyway. Wouldn't miss it. There was a pause on the line. One of those pauses that feels a little too weighted. All right, cool. Just give Megan a heads up, I guess. So I texted Megan. No reply. A few days later, I sent a follow-up. Hey, just checking in. What's the plan for Dad's birthday? She finally responded 3 days later. Party starts at 5. Dad thinks it's just dinner. Don't be late. That was it. No address. No theme. No info about food or dress code or who else was coming. Not even a smiley face. I stared at the text for a long time. Could have easily taken that as a sign. Could have said, you know what? Maybe it's better I don't go. But something in me snapped a little. Not out of pride, exactly, but something stubborn. If they thought I wouldn't come, I wanted to prove them wrong. I booked a flight. Took time off work. Spent 2 days hunting for a gift that was personal, but not over the top. I found this old vinyl pressing of one of Dad's favorite albums, James Taylor, Sweet Baby James. Tracked it down through a collector on Etsy. Had it shipped to my apartment, wrapped it in midnight blue paper, tied a silver ribbon on it. I even printed a photo of me and Dad from when I was 12. We were building a birdhouse in the backyard, laughing about something, and tucked it inside the sleeve. I wrote, thanks for teaching me how to build things. This time I brought music instead of nails. Corny, maybe. But honest. The flight was delayed, of course, because that's just how it goes. I landed in DC past midnight and crashed at a cheap hotel nearby. Slept maybe 4 hours. Rented a car the next morning. Drove the hour and a half through winding back roads to my parents' house, the place where I grew up. The roads were still familiar, but the trees looked thinner, somehow. Or maybe it was me, thicker skinned, but feeling strangely transparent. The party was at some rented hall, not the house, which surprised me. I punched the address into Google Maps and pulled up to a sleek, modern event space with glass doors and string lights in the windows. Fancy. Must have cost a lot. The parking lot was already packed, and I was already 15 minutes late. I hurried inside, clutching the gift bag like a shield. I expected to be greeted. Maybe hugged. Maybe someone would say, hey, you made it. Instead, I stepped into the main room and was immediately hit by the scent of catered chicken parmesan and the buzz of casual laughter. The kind of laughter that says everyone's already settled in. The kind of laughter that doesn't pause when you walk in. And then I saw her. Megan, my sister, standing near the entrance in a deep green dress, holding a glass of white wine like it was a wand. Her eyes flicked toward me, and she smirked. Oh, she said loud enough for the group around her to hear. You actually came? The people around her, cousins, aunts, her husband, turned to look at me. Smiles uncertain. Expressions guarded. Megan didn't stop. Dad said you'd probably flake like always. Guess I owe him $5. Laughter. Real laughter this time. Polite, but real. I froze. Just for a second. And then I smiled. Nice to see you too, Megan. I moved past her, deeper into the room, ignoring the sting in my chest. That was the first cut, and I wish I could say it was the last. But things were just getting started. I spotted Dad across the room, talking to Uncle Jerry near the buffet table. I made my way over, gift bag still in hand. As I got close, he turned, saw me, and I swear, for a moment, his face lit up. But then something flickered in his eyes. A hesitation. A moment's doubt. "Luke," he said, wrapping me in a quick, slightly awkward hug. "You made it." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, echoing my phone call to Aaron. "Well, you cut it close," he said with a chuckle. "We were just about to start the slideshow. That's when it happened." I followed him to the center of the room, where Megan was standing beside a small podium and a pull-down projector screen. She tapped the mic, cleared her throat. Did her little performance thing. Megan always loved a spotlight. "All right, everyone," she said, smiling wide. "Before we eat, let's take a little trip down memory lane. A slideshow of Dad through the years, his greatest moments, greatest joys, and a few embarrassing ones too. Don't worry, Dad. I only included one mullet picture." Laughter. Again. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. The first photo, Dad as a kid, holding a baseball glove. Next, Dad in high school, posing beside his first car. Then, wedding photos, baby pictures. Megan as a toddler. Aaron in a little bow tie. And more. Graduation shots. Christmas mornings. Family vacations. All there. Except, I wasn't. At first I thought maybe they were going chronologically. Maybe my pictures just hadn't come up yet. But then it moved to Megan's wedding. Aaron's college graduation. Dad's 50th birthday bash. Nothing. Not one photo of me. Not even group shots where I knew I was there. Not even the infamous Yellowstone trip where I broke my arm and wore that horrible orange cast for half the vacation. They had scrubbed me out. Like I'd never existed. I glanced around the room. No one seemed surprised. No one seemed to notice. Except Aaron. He was watching me. Jaw tight. Brows knit. Like he wanted to say something, but didn't. And then Dad chuckled, elbowed Uncle Jerry, and said, "Well, it's been a good 60 years. I set the gift bag down on the table beside me. My hand trembled just slightly. That's when I knew. I knew what I had to do, and I wasn't going to wait until the cake was served. I stood there in the dim light, the slideshow flickering through sanitized memories of a family I used to be part of. It felt like being a ghost at my own funeral. Everyone was smiling, laughing, wiping sentimental tears as each curated photo glided across the screen. But the only thing I could feel was cold. My dad didn't even notice. Or maybe he did, and chose not to. That part hurt more than I expected. He'd always been a quiet man, reserved, not much of a talker. He showed his love in actions, not words. But standing there in the middle of this celebration of his life, I couldn't find myself in any of his greatest joys. Not a trace. It was like being erased. Carefully, deliberately. I sat at a round table near the back, alone. I didn't recognize most of the guests. Megan had invited a lot of her in-laws, Aaron's co-workers, people from Dad's church group. I tried to catch Aaron's eye, but he was across the room, his arm wrapped around his wife, forced smile plastered on his face. He looked uncomfortable too, but not enough to walk over. The lights came back on, and people started clapping. Megan bowed like she'd just wrapped up a TED Talk. "All right," she said into the mic, "let's eat." I waited a few beats before joining the buffet line. My stomach was tight, but I hadn't eaten all day, and part of me wanted to stay visible. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of disappearing. Again, I reached the table and picked at the food: chicken parm, Caesar salad, garlic bread. As I walked back to my seat, I noticed Megan walking toward me with a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. She stopped at my table, still holding her wine. "You look tired," she said sweetly. "Long flight." I nodded. Red eye. Delay. The usual. "Well, at least you made it. We really didn't think you would." "That's the second time you've said that," I said, my voice even. She tilted her head. Oh, I didn't mean anything by it. Just, history speaks for itself." "History," I repeated. "Like the slideshow?" Her lips curled, just slightly. "What about it?" "I didn't see any photos of me. Not even from family events I know I attended." She blinked. "Oh, well, I guess it was just an oversight. I put it together last minute." You've been hard to include, Luke. You're never around. I stared at her. You're seriously going to act like I'm the one who disappeared? She rolled her eyes, leaned in a little, and said in a low voice, You left. You made your choice to be out there, doing your own thing, being all independent. You can't expect to just drop in and be the star of the show. I didn't ask to be the star. I just wanted to be in the damn family photo album. She stood up straighter, took a sip of wine, and said, Well, maybe next time give us more than 3 days' notice. That was a lie. I'd texted her 3 weeks ago. She just didn't respond until 3 days before. She turned on her heel and walked away before I could respond. That's when I noticed something else. The gift bag. Gone. I scanned the table. I hadn't moved it. I knew exactly where I placed it. Right next to the centerpiece with the tiny gold 60 confetti and the fake ivory candles. But now it was missing. I got up, looked around, checked under the table, behind the chair. Nothing. I approached the dessert table where Megan was now chatting with Mom. I didn't want to make a scene, but I couldn't let it go. Hey, I said quietly. Did someone move the gift I brought Dad? I left it at my table. Megan barely looked at me. Was it in a dark blue bag? Yes. Oh, yeah. I think someone thought it was trash. It's probably in the bin. I blinked. What? She shrugged. It didn't have a card or anything. It did. I taped it inside. Well, I'm sorry, she said, sounding not sorry at all. But maybe next time label it. My jaw clenched. I walked toward the trash bins near the kitchen area, and, sure enough, there it was. Wedged between a stack of greasy paper plates and a crumpled napkin covered in Caesar dressing. I pulled it out slowly, hands shaking. The bag was damp, torn slightly on one side. The ribbon was unraveling. I opened it and pulled out the vinyl. Warped. Ruined. The photo inside was soggy, the ink bleeding into the paper. My handwriting blurred into a black smear. I stood there, staring at it. I felt like I was 10 again, when I gave Megan a handmade birthday card, and she called it cheap in front of all her friends. Like I was 17, when I won a science fair and Dad missed it to take Aaron to baseball tryouts. Like I was 25, when I sent a Christmas gift and they forgot to open it until February. Except now, I was 33, and I wasn't going to pretend it didn't hurt anymore. I walked back into the main room and spotted Dad near the bar. He was laughing with someone I didn't know, glass of scotch in hand. I walked up, waiting for a pause in conversation, and said, Hey, Dad, can I talk to you for a second? He turned, face still flushed from laughter. Of course, son. What's up? I held up the ruined gift bag. This was your present. He frowned. Oh, what happened? Megan said someone threw it out. He raised an eyebrow. Why would they do that? Because apparently it looked like trash. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Well, I'm sure it was just a mistake. No harm done. No harm. I asked quietly. You don't even want to know what it was? He hesitated. Well, sure. I reached in and pulled out the vinyl. The sleeve was soaked, the edges frayed. Remember this album? You used to play it every Saturday morning. This was an original pressing. I found it through a collector. And there was a photo of us from when we built the birdhouse in the backyard. I wrote you a note. Dad's face twitched. A flicker of something. But not enough. I appreciate the effort, Luke. I really do. But you don't have to prove anything to me. It's just a party. You're here. That's what matters. That was it. That was all he said. No apology. No indignation. Not even curiosity about the ruined gift. I turned and walked away before I said something I'd regret. I sat back down at my table, wiped my hands on a napkin, and stared at the vinyl. That's when Aaron finally came over. He sat down without saying anything. Looked at the bag. Then at me. I saw it happen, he said quietly. Megan told one of the catering staff it was trash. Said it was probably something you forgot to take home. My mouth went dry. She what? She laughed. Said, oh well, he won't even notice. I stared at him. And you didn't say anything? I wanted to, he said. But Megan's had it out for you ever since you stopped showing up for holidays. She spins everything like it's your fault. And Dad, he doesn't like conflict. You know that. That's not an excuse. I know. He leaned back. I'm sorry, man. Sorry's not enough. He nodded, slow and quiet. There was a moment of silence between us. Then Erin said something that flipped the entire night on its head. She told them you weren't coming. That's why you weren't in the slideshow. That's why your name wasn't even on the seating chart. I looked at him. What? She told Dad, Mom, everyone, that you said you couldn't make it. That work had you swamped, and you try to send a gift or call if you could. I never said that. I know. I sat there, heart pounding, the noise of the party blurring around me. Megan had erased me. Intentionally. From the pictures. From the planning. From the very idea of this family. She told everyone I wasn't coming. And when I showed up, she made sure it was awkward. She mocked me at the entrance, let my gift get trashed, made sure my absence from the slideshow felt like my own fault. And everyone else just let it happen. That was the moment something hardened in me. Not anger, exactly. Not yet. Resolve. I looked around the room. At Megan, laughing near the dessert table. At Dad, toasting with his friends. At Mom, flipping through party favors. And then I stood up. Because if they wanted me gone from the story, maybe it was time I wrote a new chapter. One they couldn't erase. But I wasn't going to confront her there. Not yet. I had something else in mind. The party dragged on for another hour, maybe two, but I wouldn't know. I left before they dimmed the lights for cake. Slipped out without saying goodbye. Without another word to my father. Without a confrontation. I didn't want a scene, didn't want to give Megan the satisfaction of watching me crack. I drove back to the hotel in silence. No music. No news. Just the sound of the car engine and my thoughts spinning so loud they felt like static in my ears. I tossed the ruined gift bag onto the passenger seat, and as it landed, I caught one last glimpse of the soaked photo inside. The color had bled so much you couldn't even see our faces anymore. Just a wash of ink and paper that looked like it had cried with me. And I did cry. Not in the hotel lobby, not in the elevator, not even when I reached my room. I held it all in until I was sitting on the edge of that stiff bed, staring at the wall like it owed me an apology. That's when it hit. Hard, hot, and fast. The kind of crying that leaves you gasping. Not just from sadness, but from the weight of years. From the realization that maybe you were never going to be enough for the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. I must have sat there for an hour, maybe more, letting it out. All of it. The birthday I spent alone at 16 because they forgot I was home from school early. The graduation party I never had because Aaron got engaged the same week. The calls that went unanswered. The holidays filled with casual jabs dressed up as jokes. I kept asking myself the same question. How did I let it get this far? But that night, as I sat there wiping my face with a rough hotel towel, something shifted. The tears stopped. Not because I was done hurting, but because I was tired of waiting for someone else to fix it. Tired of showing up to prove something. Tired of hoping they'd finally see me. So I decided something. Not out of revenge, not yet. Just out of survival. I was done chasing their approval. I took out my phone and blocked Megan's number. Then Aaron's. Then even Dad's. I didn't send some dramatic message. I didn't post some vague status. I just disconnected. And in that quiet, something strange happened. I started to breathe again. The next morning, I flew back to Portland. No delays this time. Just a direct path away from the people who made me feel like a footnote in their lives. I landed around noon, grabbed a cab, and went straight home. My apartment wasn't much, one bedroom, open kitchen, modest furniture, but it was mine. It felt warm, safe, like I could hear myself think again. I spent the rest of the weekend resetting. Cleaned the apartment. Deleted old photos that only brought back guilt. Took a long walk through Laurelhurst Park, just letting the air hit my face and remind me I wasn't invisible. That Monday, I showed up early to work. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to feel grounded. I work at a mid-sized tech firm, mostly back-end development, infrastructure stuff. Not glamorous, not flashy, but I was good at it. Quietly essential. I stayed late that night. Not to bury my feelings in code, but to build something that reminded me of who I was, of what I was capable of. A few weeks later, I pitched an idea to our senior devs. A tool I'd been working on in the background. It streamlined deployment across multiple cloud platforms, cut the typical rollout time by almost 40%. I'd tinkered with it for months, but never felt confident enough to show it off. Something about the birthday party changed that. I was done waiting to be invited to the table. They loved it. Within 2 months, it became standard protocol in our pipeline. My name went on the internal documentation. HR mentioned a promotion track. I started getting invites to speak at conferences. Nothing huge, just local panels, but they felt like steps forward. Outside of work, I reconnected with people I'd unintentionally pushed away. Friends from college. A neighbor I'd always waved at but never talked to. I even signed up for a ceramics class on a whim. Something creative, tactile, away from screens and code. I started seeing a therapist, too. She didn't fix me. That's not how it works. But she helped me unravel the guilt I carried. Helped me see that just because my family treated me like an outsider didn't mean I was one. We talked about boundaries, about self-worth, about how I'd internalized the idea that being different meant being wrong. The hardest part was unlearning the voice in my head that sounded like Megan's. You're just trying to be special. You always make everything about you. You don't show up. But I did show up. I always had. They just didn't care to notice. It took months to feel steady again. But slowly, piece by piece, I started to build a life that wasn't tied to their approval. I got a raise. Moved into a slightly bigger place with better light. Adopted a rescue dog named Milo. Scrappy little mutt with one floppy ear and a bark way too big for his body. He made me laugh in a way I hadn't in years. I even started volunteering once a month, helping local high school kids with coding basics. It felt good to give something without expecting anything in return. But even as things got better, that birthday stayed in the back of my mind. Not as a wound, but as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes, walking away isn't giving up. It's choosing peace over pain. Then, one Sunday afternoon, about 9 months after the party, I got a text. From an unknown number. Hey, it's Aaron. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time. My first instinct was to ignore it. I'd been doing so well. I'd built so much. Why dig up the past? But curiosity won. I responded, "What's up?" The typing bubbles appeared almost immediately. "Can I call?" I hesitated, then replied, "Sure." The phone rang 30 seconds later. "Hey," he said, voice a little rough. "Thanks for picking up. What's going on?" There was a pause. "I need to tell you something. About Dad." My chest tightened. "Is he okay?" "He's fine. I mean, health-wise. But he's retiring." "Oh, yeah. And he wants to make changes to the trust." That caught me off guard. "What trust?" "Exactly," Aaron said. "Megan didn't tell you." "Figures. Tell me what." "Dad set up a trust about 5 years ago. Some kind of legacy thing. Assets, property, investments. It's got a decent amount in it. Enough that it matters. But here's the thing. He only listed me and Megan as beneficiaries." I blinked. "Why?" "Because Megan told him you weren't interested. That you separated yourself from the family. That you said you didn't want anything to do with us." I stood up, heart pounding. "That's a lie." "I know. I just found out recently. I saw the paperwork when I was helping him scan some documents. I asked him why you weren't listed, and he said, Luke made it clear years ago he was done with the family. Megan convinced him you'd written us all off. That you only reach out when you want something. I've never asked for anything." "I know," he repeated. There was a long pause. "So what now?" I asked. Aaron sighed. "I don't know. But Dad's not exactly quick to change his mind. And Megan, she's gotten more controlling lately. She handles his bills, his calendar, everything. Mom just lets it happen." I sat back down. "I thought you should know," Aaron said. "Why now?" "Because I'm tired of pretending like it's okay," he said quietly. "And because I saw what you built out there. That conference talk you did in San Diego last month, it went viral in my industry circles. You're doing something real, Luke. And I figured, maybe it's time you reclaimed what's yours." I didn't respond right away, but something in me stirred. Not anger. Not yet. But the beginning of something sharper. Focused. And this time, I wasn't going to just walk away. This time, they were going to see exactly who they erased. And what it cost them. I didn't sleep that night. After Aaron's call ended, I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, letting the truth sink in like a slow poison. Not only had Megan turned the entire family against me, not only had she erased me from a birthday meant to celebrate our father's life, she'd taken it a step further. She'd convinced him to cut me out of his legacy altogether. Not because I'd done something unforgivable, not because I'd disowned anyone, but because it was convenient. Because she could. Because I made the mistake of distancing myself instead of confronting the slow, quiet ways she always undermined me. And they all let her do it. I kept thinking about that night. About how easily they swallowed her version of me. The flaky son. The absent brother. The one who didn't care enough to show up. That narrative was easier to digest than the truth. That they'd pushed me away, brick by brick, until there was nothing left to stand on. But now I had something Megan hadn't counted on. A reason to act. And a clean conscience. Aaron's call wasn't just a warning, it was leverage. If he was telling the truth about the trust, and I had every reason to believe he was. Then Megan wasn't just manipulating emotions. She was manipulating assets. Legal ones. Financial ones. My father wasn't some billionaire, but between his pension, a few rental properties, and a vintage car he'd been restoring for a decade, there was definitely something worth protecting. And something worth fighting for. I woke up the next morning with purpose. Real purpose. Not just the kind you feel when you decide to be the bigger person and move on. No, this was colder, cleaner, sharper. I was going to set things right. Not by begging to be let back in, but by proving they were better off without me and showing them exactly what they lost. The first thing I did was start digging. Carefully, quietly. Over the next few weeks, I turned my research skills towards something far more personal than debugging a network failure or optimizing cloud latency. I called in a favor from an old college friend who'd gone into estate law. I gave her the basics, hypothetical at first. Let's say a family member is being deliberately misled about their will or trust by another family member. She didn't ask too many questions. She just laid out the facts. If your name isn't on the trust and it's legally binding, there's not a lot you can do, unless you can prove manipulation, coercion, or that the trust was created under false pretenses. Would it help, I asked, if someone had told the trustee, my dad, that I was estranged when I wasn't? She paused. If you have texts, emails, call logs, anything that proves you maintain contact or try to be involved, that helps. And if someone actively blocked you or misrepresented you to the trustee, that's a big deal. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. And what about assets that were jointly inherited, like property? She responded, if it was meant to be passed to multiple beneficiaries but was consolidated under one person's control, that can get complicated. But yes, if you can trace the timeline and show a pattern of exclusion, you've got a case. I hung up the phone and started organizing. I went back through 10 years of emails, texts, receipts, every missed invitation, every ignored message, every digital breadcrumb that proved I had tried, every happy birthday they never returned, every screenshot of messages Megan left on read, every voicemail I'd kept from Dad, short, impersonal, but undeniably there. Then I started thinking bigger. If Megan was the one managing Dad's bills and finances, was she just pushing me out of the trust? Or was she digging deeper? Erin said she handled everything. That meant access, bank accounts, online records, maybe even the family property titles. So I did what I knew how to do best. I searched, and I found something that didn't sit right. Through a public property records site, I discovered that the family lake house, the one my grandparents had left behind decades ago, had recently changed ownership. It used to be listed under my parents' names jointly, but now it was solely under Dad's name. And 2 months after that change, it was transferred again to a newly formed LLC. The LLC was called Glenridge Heritage Trust. I almost laughed when I saw the agent's name. Megan Stanton. She hadn't just pushed me out of the family story. She was actively consolidating our family's assets under her name, and likely doing it without Dad even understanding what was happening. But I couldn't just walk in and accuse her. Not yet. This had to be strategic. Surgical. Revenge isn't just about justice. It's about timing. I called Aaron again the next day. This time, he sounded nervous. Hey, he said. Everything okay? I found the lake house, I said bluntly. He didn't respond at first. I know what Megan's doing, I continued. She's not just managing Dad's money. She's moving it around, creating shell entities, putting property in her name. Have you told Mom? He sighed. Mom doesn't want to deal with it. She says Megan knows what she's doing and that it's all for the family. And Dad, he trusts her, Aaron said bitterly. He's tired. He's just trying to enjoy retirement. He doesn't want to read fine print. I exhaled through my nose. Then we're going to have to make him look. Aaron hesitated. What are you planning? I smiled. Just follow my lead. To his credit, he did. Over the next few weeks, I coordinated with Aaron in secret. We kept our texts brief, our calls short. I didn't want Megan catching on. She was meticulous, always had been. She could sniff out a confrontation days before it happened. But this wasn't a confrontation. It was a setup, and I was building it one thread at a time. The first thread was documentation. I compiled a full report of property transfers, trust changes, LLC registrations, anything that had Megan's name on it. I even found an invoice from a real estate attorney she'd used for the LLC formation. I cross-checked the dates with emails Aaron forwarded me from Dad's inbox. emails Megan had drafted on Dad's behalf. The second thread was a plan. Dad's retirement party was coming up. A smaller affair than his 60th birthday, but still formal. Still family. It was being held at the same country club where Megan had her wedding reception. Of course, she was planning it. She was also planning to surprise him with a slideshow, again. Erin told me she was even calling it a legacy in pictures. I nearly choked on my coffee. Perfect. The third thread was a wild card. My grandmother, Dad's mom, was still alive, just shy of 89, but sharp as a tack. She lived in a care facility an hour outside Richmond. I hadn't seen her in years, not because I didn't want to, but because Megan had slowly taken over those visits, citing Mom's busy schedule and Luke's travel. So I drove down. No warning. Just showed up with flowers and cinnamon rolls, her favorite. She was thrilled. "You look tired," she said, poking my cheek. "Just a long year," I told her. We talked for hours. She asked about Portland, about Milo, about the pottery I'd started selling online. And then I asked her a question. "Grandma, do you remember when Grandpa left the lake house to the family?" Her expression changed. "Of course. He wanted it for all of you. Said it should always be shared. Did he ever say anything about giving it to just one of us?" She scoffed. "Lord, no. He'd roll in his grave." I nodded slowly. Megan moved it. Transferred it to an LLC. She stared at me. "What?" "I have the documents." Her eyes narrowed. "She told me you didn't want anything to do with the property. Said you moved too far away. That you said it was a burden." "I never said that." Grandma sat back, fuming. I knew she was hiding something. "Would you be willing," I asked carefully, "to tell Dad the truth? On the record?" She didn't hesitate. "I'll do better," she said. "I'll tell the whole damn family." The stage was set. The documents were printed, bound, tabbed. I had email chains, property transfers, trust outlines, and even a statement from Grandma typed and signed. All I needed now was the right moment. And it came faster than I expected. The day before Dad's retirement party, Erin sent me a photo. It was the new seating chart. My name wasn't on it. Again, no surprise there. But this time, I wasn't hurt. I was ready. Because this time, I wasn't going to ask for a seat at the table. I was going to flip the whole thing over. And Megan? She had no idea what was coming. The day of my dad's retirement party, I wore a navy blue suit and a steady expression. The venue looked almost identical to Megan's wedding reception. Same stone path entrance, same manicured lawn, same white gold color scheme she loved pretending was classic when it was just boring. A giant "Congratulations, Dad" banner hung over the French doors, flanked by gold and silver balloons. Inside, smooth jazz played over a sound system and guests buzzed over shrimp cocktail and bacon-wrapped scallops. Megan had spared no expense, which made it even better. I walked in alone, documents in my briefcase and a calm, practiced smile on my face. I timed it perfectly, just 30 minutes before the program was scheduled to start. Megan was near the stage, clipboard in hand, giving direction to a group of staff like a low-budget wedding planner. Her head snapped toward me as I entered. She blinked. Once. Twice. And then, just like clockwork, she smirked. "Oh," she said, just loud enough for people nearby to hear. "You made it." I smiled back, teeth showing this time. "I wasn't sure I'd be allowed in," I said lightly. "Didn't see my name on the seating chart again." She gave a practiced little laugh. "Well, you didn't RSVP. You know how these things go." I actually did. Twice. But I suppose your assistant forgot to mention it. Megan's jaw tensed just slightly. She recovered fast. "Whatever," she said, brushing past me. "Just try not to make this about you again, okay?" "Oh, I won't," I said. "Promise." The main hall was already filling up. Dad was in the center of it all, surrounded by old co-workers, golf buddies, neighbors, and extended family. He looked tired. Not just the usual retirement fatigue, but something deeper, worn thin, like years of letting others speak for him had caught up to him. Mom sat beside him, chatting politely with a guest, nodding like everything was fine. Erin spotted me from across the room and gave the slightest nod. He was in place. Grandma wasn't there yet, but she would be. The lights dimmed just after 6 p.m., and Megan took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said with the confidence of a talk show host, "thank you all for coming to celebrate our incredible father's retirement. After 40 years of service, he's finally taking the long overdue break he deserves." Applause. I clapped too. calm, measured. We've put together a special program, she continued, with stories, photos, and memories of Dad's legacy. Because at the heart of everything he's built, his career, our family, his friendships, there's one constant: love. That was rich coming from her. We'll start with a little video tribute, she said, motioning toward the screen. Lights dimmed further. The video began. Just like before, it started with childhood photos. Dad as a baby, toddler, teenager. High school football shots. His wedding day. Megan's birth. Errands. Then came family vacations. Christmas mornings. Graduation photos. I waited. And just like last time, I wasn't there. Not in the group shots. Not in the family milestones. Not in the stills from Yellowstone. Not even the baby photos. I knew they had them. Mom used to keep them in a brown album on the hallway shelf. They'd been cropped out. I glanced around. Some guests were confused. I caught one or two whispering to each other. At least a few people remembered I existed. When the video ended, the applause was hesitant. Light. Uneasy. Megan took the stage again. "We love you, Dad," she said, misty-eyed. "You've given us everything." She stepped aside. And that's when Aaron stood up. He had a mic in hand. Megan looked surprised. This hadn't been in her program. "I just want to say something real quick," Aaron said. "You all just watched a beautiful video. It shows a lot of great memories. But someone, was missing." Megan's smile froze. "Luke?" Aaron said, turning toward me. "Our brother. My brother." The room shifted. Heads turned. I didn't move. "I've stayed quiet about a lot over the years," Aaron continued, his voice steady. "But today, I'm done being quiet. Because what you didn't see in that video is the truth." Megan stepped forward. "Aaron." "No," he said. "Not this time." He turned back to the crowd. "Luke's been here. He's always been here. Maybe not physically every weekend, but he's called. He's sent gifts. He's reached out. But for years, someone's been making sure his presence doesn't get seen, doesn't get felt." Megan's face was stone. And that's when I stood. I walked up the aisle slowly, briefcase in hand, and took the stage beside Aaron. "Hi, everyone," I said into the mic, my voice calm, even. "I wasn't planning to speak today, but I think it's time." I turned to face my father. "Dad, I came to your birthday last year. I brought you a gift. A rare vinyl of your favorite album. It was thrown in the trash." A murmur spread across the room. "You didn't see it because you were told I wasn't coming. That I flaked. But I didn't. Megan made sure you didn't know. She made sure I was left off the slideshow." Again, Megan crossed her arms. "This is ridiculous. He's making a scene." "No," I said. "I'm presenting the facts." I opened the briefcase and pulled out a thick manila folder. This is a timeline of property transfers. Specifically, the family lake house, left by Grandpa for all of us. It was quietly moved into an LLC that Megan owns. Without Dad's knowledge. Without a family discussion. Gasps now. Real ones. She also convinced Dad to remove me from the family trust. She told him I wasn't interested. That I didn't want to be involved. That I cut ties. I stepped closer to the edge of the stage. But I didn't. I was cut out. Megan finally snapped. "This is disgusting, Luke. You wait until Dad's retirement party to throw a tantrum? You're jealous. You always have been. That's why you left." I let her finish. Then I said, "I didn't come here for revenge." I paused. But I did come with reinforcements. The back door of the hall opened and enrolled my grandmother, pushed gently by a staff aide, regal as ever in a sky-blue dress and matching scarf. Her presence sucked the air out of the room. "Surprise," she said, loud enough to carry. "Hope I'm not late." Megan's face turned pale. Grandma reached the front row and took the mic from me. "I may be old," she said, "but I'm not dead. And I remember exactly what my husband wanted for this family. The lake house was supposed to be shared. Luke never said he didn't want it. That was a lie." She glared at Megan. "You've been controlling this family like a little dictator for years. Enough is enough." The room was dead silent. Grandma handed me the mic back. "I have legal documents," I told the crowd. "Emails. Proof. And if anyone would like copies, I'll have them outside at the end of the program." Megan looked like she might actually faint. I turned to my dad. "I came here today not to shame you, but to remind you. I was here. I've always been here. But I won't be silent anymore." I set the mic down on the podium. Quiet. Firm. And walked off stage. The fallout wasn't immediate. It never is. But it was seismic. By Monday morning, Dad called me. For the first time in months. Luke, he said, his voice hoarse. I didn't know. I swear I didn't. I believe you, I said. But I need more than words. And he delivered. Within 2 weeks, he added me back to the family trust. Had the lake house reassessed. Reinstated shared ownership between all 3 siblings. Pending legal mediation. He even confronted Megan about the LLC. She tried to lie. He'd seen enough. Mom sent me a long, handwritten letter. Not perfect, but honest. She apologized for her silence. For letting Megan dominate. For not speaking up when it mattered. Aaron and I grew closer. Really closer. We talk weekly now. He even flew out to Portland once. Helped me build a new workbench for my pottery. Megan? She went scorched earth. Tried to spin it like I'd manipulated Dad. That I'd humiliated her. But no one bought it. Not after the paper trail. Not after Grandma's statement. Not after people started talking. She stopped coming to family functions for a while. And honestly, no one begged her to stay. I never wanted to destroy her. I just wanted the truth to be undeniable. And when it finally stood on its own, something beautiful happened. People saw me again. Not as a ghost, but as a son, a brother, a grandson, a man. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was knocking on the door, begging to be let in. Because I'd built my own house. And this time, I had the deed.